There is a running joke in the VTuber community that if you are unsure of what content to create, then you should just announce something. A debut, new assets, a subathon, music, merch, something. Well, I can certainly announce that on Sunday I will be turning another year older. Yes, I will officially be 31. And to be completely honest with y'all, I have no idea how this happened. Like, what the hell happened to June? What happened to April, for that matter? All jokes aside, I'm gonna be real, in that this year is hitting a rather somber note for me. I suppose I could best liken it to Walter White from Breaking Bad. Like, y'all know the story, White turns 50, he gets cancer, goes off the deep end, starts a criminal empire, wages a war, and somehow wins. And then, in the final season, it opens with him turning 51. A whole year has passed, and whoever he was at the start of the story, well, that person doesn't exist anymore. Something about how that passage of time was portrayed really stuck with me when I watched it, not to mention the ending when he is asked one final time why he did everything that he did. And the answer that he gave was, because I was good at it. Now, that sure as hell resonated with me in so many ways. Allow me to be a bit more forthcoming here than I normally would. There are entirely different facets to me which I do not integrate into my content normally. My private life, the person behind the performer, is mired in years of trauma, pain, bad decisions, and myriad personal failures. And sometimes I do need to go back and remind myself of the promises that I make to myself as I struggle to keep myself alive and afloat for just a little bit longer. And one thing I promised myself when I turned 30 was I was going to try being better about letting go of things that transpired during my 20s. The problem is, that is far easier said than done. In some respects, I even doubled down on a few of those things. My avatars became a bit more flamboyant, a bit more suggestive, though nevertheless remaining well within the boundaries of YouTube TOS compared to other VTubers. I've also become a bit more comfortable with speaking how I speak in reality, which often involves a bit more profanity. Again, trying to keep it within YouTube's rules for fear of kneecapping myself before I can actually take off. And if that's naive of me, well, I did say a year ago that growing up is optional. Certainly that much hasn't changed. But getting back to the point, what was it that I was good at? And the answer was, well, being whatever others wanted of me. I alluded to this in my There Is No Agenda video, but I did in fact spend much of my younger years being a doll for others to make into whatever was most convenient for them. I internalized that as a deep-seated requirement of my very existence, because without it, I felt like I was a ghost. And what I mean by that is I had lost something of myself so long ago that I no longer felt grounded to this world, almost as if my very life had ended before it could even begin. Blame the crippling spinal surgery for that one. And thus, I began living a life which was idealized through the fleeting whims of others whom I confided in. Did I allow myself to be used? Absolutely. Did I thrive on being used? Honestly, yes, I did. But somehow, in spite of all that, I am still here. I am still a part of this whole experience. And it took a long time for me to realize my being a part of that experience has left an impact. I've had people tell me my actions, as eccentric and absurd as they can be at times, or most of the time, have given those same people hope and allowed them to better advocate for themselves in their own lives. I've been told that my simply being there has saved some of their lives. That, to me, is very humbling. In a way, that is what I truly always wanted. I would constantly, throughout my 20s, tell the people closest to me, don't be like me. And I echoed that endlessly because deep down, I had spent the majority of my life feeling miserable and sorry for myself, and never wanting another person to be weighed down by that same level of pain. Yet, the irony was that my ability to reconcile the pain and to outright rebel against it is what other people admired, even if it was a strange way to live. And through that irony, people did wish to be like me, which I just never put two and two together, or in more extreme cases, I tried to be ignorant of it. Looking back, I feel as though I carried some of that ignorance into my wishes to be a content creator, initially trying to come off as strictly professional, no nonsense, a highly sanitized version of how I really think and feel. Telling myself at 30 to start letting go of the expectations which had been inherent to my life in my 20s, it might have been too much of an ask, since Walter White couldn't even do that at 51. I mean, after all, even in his final days, he cared more about making sure those in his life never ended up like him. But even as he put the literal fear of God into those people, I think they all saw what it really was he had been getting at. So, what of me then? Like I said, I turn 31 tomorrow, August the 4th, physically handicapped, emotionally stunted, barely a penny to my name, borderline hikikomori, and in spite of all that, still willing to go down swinging and not ready to give any of this up. Not that it hasn't been hell, certainly. Alright, enough of the silly posturing that I tend to do in these videos. It's time for a status update. We are now in the month of August, and July was very much spent slacking off due to absurd heat waves not even I was prepared for, and I used to love summer. I think I made like 8 videos this whole month when I would normally make closer to double that, and it certainly did not help that I got myself hooked on Fallout 4, which was a mistake I'll have to go into on a different road trip talk video. Although, in my defense, I finally accomplished a few things that I had been putting off for a while. I applied for disability, which is going to take 6 months just to get an intake interview, but oh well. I did a few side projects for close friends of mine, knocked those off my personal checklist, got some much needed imaging done on my spine that has literally been years overdue, and I actually made a bit of headway on that voice dubbing project I mentioned literal months ago that I was supposed to do in June, and again, better late than never. You know, you've got to take your wins where you can get them. Really, the only thing I didn't get to that I really wish I could have gotten to is a little side rant about current events that, in fairness, was quickly shoved out of the digital zeitgeist because of other events which, no, I do not wish to touch with a 10-foot pole. So it is what it is. As we move into this coming month, my top priority is finishing the voice dubbing project. Secondary priority is finishing all remaining Need for Speed Rivals episodes going into the end of December, and if it goes into January for whatever reason, yeah, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. The final matter at hand is deciding if there will be a Wednesday-Friday slot opening for one more video series starting in October. That would be a lot of work on top of what I'm already doing. Do I dare risk burning out? Honestly, I'm questioning it. The raw footage is there, and it just needs to be edited. If I finish Rivals content completely by the end of August, then yes, the October slot will open. But we'll see. Thank you so much for, as usual, listening to me ramble. Again, because it's my birthday, I do have a Ko-Fi if you feel like being generous, or if you want to like the video, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see y'all in the next video.